What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, we got to talk about something pretty serious. Probably will get my blood boiling. And look, all right, let's set the stage here, okay? As time has gone on, I've honestly pulled more and more away from topics like this, just kind of because, I make what I want to make, and when I think it's important, I'm going to cover it. When it feels like it does make my blood boil or I can add something interesting to the conversation, I will make videos on these type of things, right? Also, at times, it just gets tiring, especially when it comes to the Sweet Baby stuff, which we're here to talk about right now. A lot of it, whether you agree or disagree with it's just loud. It's just, unrelentless. It's just something that, again, like, for me, if I'm not into it enough or I don't think I can add something kind of different to it, I'm not going to make a video on it. But when I see slides like this, when I see an article like this gets me heated. And we've talked about this before. I think it was an individual that is working on the EA Black Panther game. Now, that game has kind of been announced, but also kind of not, right? It's not the Amy Hennig Captain America Black Panther. It's the EA Black Panther open world. And this individual is talking about hiring based off race, that she hires based off, basically, if you're white, you have no part of her team. And that's alarming. That's very alarming to hear. That sounds like a certain word that people like her will often say, is the other way around. Oh, we're trying to do all this inclusivity, all this diversity, and yet you are being that certain R word towards a group of people. So when something like that happens, I think I need to talk about it, and I did. Fast forward to right now, I actually saw this just on Twitter. I don't follow anybody, I think that's like in this circle. I think it's just my recommended sometimes likes to throw me a curveball. So I saw this article, and it was basically a presentation from a Sweet Baby Inc. employee. And again, like, I guess really quick, like, umbrella thing, I have actually said in terms of Sweet Baby, I'm not a big fan of, like, any consultation type firm. I think, I don't care what you're trying to, like, push in the game or not push in the game or whatever. For me, it's like you have writers. Every team that has a story should have writers. And if you need to go consult with, like, an entire firm to get, like, extra hands on it, potentially make it better, but also potentially ruin it, if you're going to do that, I think you need different writers. I think you need to really establish, like, what are we doing here kind of thing. Honestly, I mean, I try to be fair because I do think there's a lot of very talented writers. I still think we get a lot of games that tell incredible stories. My favorite stories in any medium is in gaming, okay? By miles, not even freaking close to anything else is in gaming. I think some of the most talented people in the world write stories for games. But if you need this consultation firm, why? Like, to me, the simple question is, why do you need them in the first place? And that's kind of where I stand on it. Okay, so enough messing around, enough jibber jabber. Let's go over what the topic here is. So the post on Twitter led me to this article from That Park Place. Honestly, I'm not familiar. I don't know if they lean, one way versus the other. I've never been on the site actually in my life, but the title is interesting. Sweet Baby Inc. employee admits goal is burning the games industry to the ground. Now, there's a neat little picture where he actually worked on as a writer of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Now, let me be clear. Let me actually pause this right here. I don't care what he is. I don't care what he identifies as. I don't care what he does in his free time. We just talked about this with the Ghost of Yote video, I think yesterday on Podcast Now. Do you do you. You believe, you identify, you do whatever you want. You do your own thing, I'm going to do my own thing. I don't really think of it. I don't really care about it. But when you come out there and you say things like that, we have a problem. We legitimately have a problem. So now is the part where I'm going to start getting a little bit of, aggressive, because why are we saying things like that? And you could say, well, maybe it's taken out of context. No, I'm actually here to show you two different things. Well, actually, number one, in a presentation titled How to Get Away with Murder, Subverting Genre Expectations, great title, at the Game Developers of Color Expo, a YouTuber, Kirsch, he introduced himself saying he's the narrative designer and sensitivity reader with a company called Sweet Baby Inc. Now, he specifically worked on Tales of Zinzaru, Suicide Squad, Alan Wake 2, The Crew, Kingdom Elites, and God of War Ragnarok. So he's worked on a ton of stuff. Here's the first slide. Cool, so why am I here? We want cooler stories, a safer world, burning the games industry to the ground. Pause, like everybody take a time out. All right, you're doing fine. You're kind of preaching a little bit with the first two, but you know what? everybody should be treated as equals. Everybody should feel safe. Everybody should be, again, let's revert to the first point. Everybody should be equal. Got no problem with that. And, look, depending on where you're going to be at, like if you're focusing on those kind of topic points more, you're going to make a bigger deal out of it. Whatever. I don't care. The bigger thing to me, I don't care about points 1 and 2. I care about point number 3, right? That better be a joke, because if it's not a joke, here's how you could say, well, look, they're coming at it from an angle of, this minority kind of sense where they feel like they've just been beaten up in the gaming industry. I think the gaming industry is more inclusive than anything else, or at least it's getting there, or, whatever you want to say. But there are people of all different, creeds and backgrounds and religions and politics. Now, actually, it mainly leans one way. A lot of people in the gaming industry actually lean one way. So I actually never really understand this, where they say, oh, well, we need to make it safer, we need to make it all this kind of stuff. Again, like, you do you can have whatever opinion you want. If you don't think it's safe, you don't think it's safe. That's fine. But for me, it's like, I don't know, from the developer point of view, you all are kind of like in one group. And I mean, we can just say it, like, many developers are left. I don't care what you are, and you shouldn't care what I am. Doesn't matter. A lot of developers are one group. So, and again, let's just leave that alone. I just don't understand where, like, these kind of points come in, where it's like, but you're all kind of on the same team anyway. So, like, why is there a problem? Like, maybe there's a couple people that aren't, maybe some of the higher executives. I don't know. But again, the biggest thing is, why are you burning the game? Why do you want to burn the gaming industry to the ground? Like, I don't know. Could you look at that as like a Batman type thing where you have to, burn it down to kind of like rebirth it? Like, see, that's what I think maybe he's getting at, where it's like, hey, we need to kind of reinvent the wheel. We need people of color or people of this or people of that. Like, they need to feel safer. They need to feel this or that. In order to do that, we need to destroy literally everything to build it up. I guess that's a way of thinking about it. I think that's a wrong way of thinking about it. Why can't we just make it all even? This is what I've never understood. I've made countless videos in my 9 years on YouTube. Why can't we just be equal? Why can't we just, like, get over, like, why, if there's pay discrepancies, one gets more than the other, why? Can't we just fix that? Do we really need to tear everything down to fix something like that? Do we really need to destroy the gaming industry to tell stories that feel more like even across the board? Does that really need to happen? Or can we just, like, do that out of, like, the goodness of our hearts? Even if you believe that, say as a consumer, I've seen many people on social media say, yeah, the gaming industry needs a hard reset. I think in some ways, yeah, the gaming industry does. The live service stuff, things like that. I think we need to hit reset buttons here and there. Do you really want somebody on the inside saying that out loud? Somebody who actively works. This person worked on Alan Wake. This person worked on God of War. They want to burn the gaming industry to the ground, and yet they worked on those 2 games plus others. Like, that's a scary thing to say. I don't know why they're saying that. But, okay, what about slide number 2 that's infinitely worse? So why am I still here? Well, yeah, I mean, you complained about stuff in the first place, so why are you here? To stop people who are uncomfortable hearing that not every story is theirs to own. The second point, to prove that space where whiteness doesn't have to live is where some of the best stories are told. And the third point, when you do genre well, it's about going deep into that well of discomfort and telling a story that has bite. I don't think I could disagree more with any of these points. Okay, well, point 2 and 3 are really bad. To stop people who are uncomfortable hearing that not every story is theirs to own. All right, that one I can kind of get. I think some people online do get pretty possessive. Gatekeeping is an interesting word. Look, I think we need to have that respect for stories and lore. Now, this just comes from me. This is just my opinion. I think we need to have respect of, like, what comes before it. So, like, for me personally, if you come in and you rewrite the book, right? Like, you look at, say, like a Disney Star Wars. To me, they are not there to, like, respect what's come before. They are there to tell their own stuff. And that's just, one example. But I get it to a degree, because I think some people become very possessive, almost to like an obsessive kind of thing, a dangerous kind of thing. Dangerous, I guess, in the sense where it just gets too aggressive online. Yet again, they're just words and they're just online. You know what I mean? It's like, honestly, if you have thick enough skin, nothing here really means anything anyway. So it's like, really all of this just devolves into nothing, to be honest with you. But in a way, I can understand that, but in a way I will also defend people, because it's like, hey, I'm defensive on games. If you come in and you rewrite Scream as a movie, you come in and you rewrite Kingdom Hearts, how dare you? You know what I mean? I would be extremely aggressive at that. Now, I'm not calling for people's heads. I'm not threatening. I'm not doing anything like that. There's a line that I do not step over. There are some people that do step over that line. And again, maybe that's who this person's talking about. Okay, that's fine. But now we're getting again into the same, the person, the Black Panther, EA game. Why are we saying things like this? To prove that space where whiteness doesn't have to live is where some of the best stories are told. So, I mean, this is just how I read that, but isn't he saying that, like, so non-white stories are better than white stories? Is that or maybe white people shouldn't tell stories that aren't white? But that one is dangerous, because if you go down that road and you say, okay, well, only people that identify as whatever, or only this group is allowed to do that, well, then shouldn't it work in reverse? So if black people are only allowed to write black stories, then they can't write a single white story. And it's like, well, I don't think that's actually, in fact, I think that's the exact same thing that you wouldn't want in the reverse, right? Like again, this really devolves oftentimes into these people sometimes are what they say they stand against. This person from EA, this person right here, they talk about they talk about making it a safer place. Wasn't that his first slide? You want a safer gaming industry, but you're actively calling out white people in your next slide. You're actively saying, like, hey, actually stories that are told by black people are just black stories. They're actually better. Not subjectively, not up to each person. They're objectively better. They are just in the grand scheme of things, they are viewed as better. Really? Like, why are we really going to go there? I just don't think that's something that we should really be saying. And then let's look at that third point again. When you do the genre well, it's about going deep into that well of discomfort and telling a story that has a bite. I think at times that could work. Let me tell you, just from like a personal thing, if every game out there made me feel uncomfortable, I wouldn't play games anymore. I don't care what's right or wrong. I don't think people do that. I mean, you can get into it's an interesting conversation, to be honest with you. You even think of, say, something like The Last of Us Part 2, and for all the talk, I just want to nail one small point to see if I can illustrate this, and you guys stay with me here. The Last of Us Part 2 is like it's a dark story, right? And, again, beyond all the controversy and stuff, do people want to feel the way that you feel in The Last of Us 2 for long? And the answer is no. The answer is Neil Druckmann has even talked about, he created it, and he has even talked about that the third game needs to be from like a place of happiness. Like, it almost needs to have a happy ending, because 2 is just too deep and dark. It's too much. It actually is this overpowering feeling, and you can't do that again. That's one game. That's one game that even the creator feels like and maybe he's fine with how it felt, but he thinks for the next game you can't do that again. Why? Because people can't actually take that. And I mean, that, I don't know, that's like a subjective, objective thing. I don't think people do any of this entertainment, escapism stuff. I don't think anybody does it with the goal of 100% being made uncomfortable. And that does go into the social stuff and the politics. And I mean, that's where I can understand, to a degree, those that get upset, right, when, say, certain things are put in movies and games. Now, I think they are at times. I don't think they are all the time. I think it's a boy who cried wolf situation a large amount of the time. But, in a way, I can understand it from the sense of, if you're going there for escapism and I play games at night. I play games to almost unwind, and for different reasons, depending on what the game is. But if every game that I played, or the definition of a good game, that's what he said, right? If you're doing it well. So games that are good need to make you feel uncomfortable. What? Why? No. I mean, honestly, factually, no. People will not do it. You do not go to the movie to feel uncomfortable. And if you do, you're doing it maybe once or twice, right? I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Do you go to the movie every single time to be talked to be put down, and to be just uncomfortable the whole time? And you do that every time you go see a movie? Absolutely. I just saw, the last movie I saw was Beetlejuice 2. That movie is a fun mess. It's just a fun mess. It doesn't try to do anything other than just kind of, I think, Tim Burton being Tim Burton. You know what I mean? That's why I'm going, just to have fun, right? Again, some movies, maybe the point is to make you feel uncomfortable. Some games, the point is to get under your skin or ask tough questions. That's fine. But if all of them are doing that, or that is the baseline of what is a good game, is that they should make you feel uncomfortable, I think you're coming at it with the complete wrong mindset. Honestly, you couldn't be more wrong. And I will tell you, it doesn't even matter what I'm saying. Don't take my word for it. Don't. Honestly, just shut it off. But I think the consumers will speak for themselves. I think if 10 games come out in a 2-month span and all of them are meant to preach to you, talk down to you, make you feel bad, make you uncomfortable, they come out just nonstop, you watch nobody buy those games, because that's what would happen on a large scale. I truly believe that. You can't do it on a large scale. I just gave an example of one game, a very large game, and the last was Part 2, and they're not even doing it for back-to-back games. So imagine Uncharted. Uncharted is a feel-good kind of thing. You don't play these games. You name me like 15 games that, that are meant to make you feel uncomfortable. I don't know. Horror games make you feel a certain way, but it's not necessarily like uncomfortable, right? I don't know. For me, like, this is to end this. Like, what's the whole point? This scares me. This is where, when the people, this is like the boy who cries wolf when they do cry wolf, right? Because I think a lot of times you'll hear all this stuff online and it's like it's really not a big deal, or it's over exaggerated, or it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But this is actually the end of that boy who cries wolf, or at least like in actual time. This is real. This is a person writing games. This is a person being brought in to consult with some of your favorite, or former favorite company. And honestly, just from like an optics point, and I'm not trying to like get this person canceled. That's absolutely not the point. I don't care, what this person does on their day to day. Truly don't. Like, they do them. I hope they feed their family. They have a house, all that jazz. But if you're hiring or you're doing the Sweet Baby Inc. Consultation, and you bring this person along, as a company making a video game, you're bringing in somebody who has said they want to burn the industry down. You're bringing them in. That's the person you want to work on Alan Wake 3. That's the person you want to work on the next Last of Us game. That's the person you're doing this with. It just doesn't make sense. And it's not an attempt to like, hey, get out of here. They should just do what they feel like passionate of. It just doesn't feel like they're passionate. It feels like they don't want to be here in the gaming industry. I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing it wrong. So you let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.